this useless girl. Leave my house and go and work for the rich wicked woman so you can bring me the money.
Mama, please don't send me away. I will not complain again. Mama, please, I'm scared. Please don't send me away.
Lazy goat, go and work.
Ada's voice cut through the air like a knife. Amarachi, come here. Amarachi's heart began to pound immediately. There was something in her stepmother's tone. Something cold. Something final. She walked slowly into the compound, her bare feet dusty, her hands still wet from washing Chiamaka's clothes. Ada stood in the middle of the compound with a tiny, faded bag in her hand. Her face was hard. No emotion, no softness, no mercy. She stretched the bag toward Amarachi. "Take this," she said flatly. Amarachi looked at the bag, then at Ada's face. Confusion filled her eyes. "Mama, where am I going?" she asked softly. Ada's eyes narrowed. "You talk too much. Take it and go and work. There is a rich woman looking for a servant. You will go there. You will serve her." Amarachi froze. Her breath caught. Her lips trembled. "Mama, please." Her voice broke. "Mama, please. Don't send me away. I will do anything. I will work harder. I will not complain again. Please, Mama." Tears rolled freely down her cheeks. But Ada's face only grew darker. "Useless girl," she snapped. "Are you deaf? I said get out." She shoved the small bag violently into Amarachi's chest. The force pushed Amarachi backward. She almost fell. "Mama, please." Amarachi cried again, her voice shaking, her body trembling like a leaf in a storm. "I don't know the place. I am afraid." Suddenly, Ada pushed her. Hard. "Get out." Amarachi stumbled forward, nearly falling to the ground. Her heart shattered. Her world collapsed. Her own stepmother, sending her away like trash. No goodbye, no love, no mercy. Behind Ada, Chiamaka stood, watching everything. Then slowly, a cruel smile spread across her face. She began to laugh. A dry, heartless laugh. "Look at her," Chiamaka mocked. "See how she is crying like a goat." She clapped her hands mockingly. Go and suffer. Don't come back." Amarachi turned and looked at her stepsister. Her eyes were filled with pain. Not hatred, just pain. The kind of pain that comes when your own family becomes your enemy. Her lips moved, but no words came out. She carried the tiny bag on her head with shaking hands. Her legs felt heavy. Each step away from that house felt like she was walking away from her entire life. She turned back one last time. Maybe, just maybe, Ada would call her back. Maybe her stepmother's heart would change. But Ada had already turned her back. Chiamaka was still laughing. Amarachi's last hope died. She turned and walked away, alone. But tell me, what will be the fate of Amarachi? Will she survive the cruelty waiting for her? And what will happen when her father, Obinna, returns and discovers that his precious daughter has been sent away like a slave? What will Ada say? What will she do? And what will become of Chiamaka, who laughed at another person's pain? Before we continue this heartbreaking story, click the subscribe button now, because this story will touch your soul, teach you a lesson, and leave you in tears. Now, let us go back to where everything truly began. Obinna was known by everyone as a calm, gentle, and responsible man. He was the kind of father whose voice never needed to be loud to be heard. The kind of husband whose presence alone gave peace. But on this day, peace had abandoned his home. Inside the small room, the air was heavy with sorrow. His beloved wife, Aluchi, lay on the bed, her body weak, her breathing slow and uneven. Each breath sounded like a struggle between life and death. Sweat covered her pale face, and her once bright eyes had grown dim. Sitting beside her was their young daughter, Amarachi. The little girl's small fingers held tightly onto her mother's wrapper, as if letting go would make her disappear forever. Tears rolled silently down Amarachi's cheeks. She did not fully understand what was happening, but her heart knew something was terribly wrong. "Mama," she whispered, her voice shaking. Oluchi slowly turned her head. The movement alone cost her strength. She lifted her weak hand and gently cupped Amarachi's face. Her touch was trembling, but it was still filled with a mother's love. She forced a faint smile. "Amarachi, Izigbo noa em," she whispered painfully. Amarachi leaned closer, her tears falling faster. Oluchi swallowed, gathering the little strength she had left. "Always be kind. Kindness never dies." Her voice was fading. A hand lingered on Amarachi's cheek, as if trying to memorize the feeling. Then Oluchi's eyes searched the room until they found Obinna, who stood frozen beside the bed. His hands were shaking. His heart was breaking before his eyes. She looked at him deeply, her eyes filled with both love and fear. "Obinna," she called weakly. He quickly moved closer and held her hand. "I am here, my wife. I am here," he said, his voice already cracking. A tear escaped his eye and fell on her hand. Oluchi struggled to speak. "Take care of her," she whispered. Her eyes moved toward Amarachi. "Do not let anyone break her spirit." Obinna nodded immediately, even as his vision blurred with tears. I promise you, Oluchi. I will protect her." Oluchi exhaled slowly. Her fingers twitched inside Obinna's hand. Then suddenly, her hand fell. Lifeless. Still. Her chest stopped moving. Silence. A terrible, unnatural silence. Obinna stared at her. "Oluchi?" he called softly. No response. Fear gripped his heart. "Oluchi," he called again, louder. Still nothing. Then reality struck him. "Oluchi," he screamed. His voice shook the room. He grabbed her body. "No, no, you cannot leave me. You cannot leave us." Tears poured freely down his face. But the woman he loved was gone. Beside him, Amarachi stared in confusion. "Mama?" she called. She shook her mother's arm gently. "Mama, wake up." Her small voice trembled. She shook her harder. "Mama, Mama, wake up." Her crying grew louder. "Mama, I will be a good girl. I promise. Please wake up." But Oluchi did not move. She did not breathe. She did not answer. And in that moment, Amarachi's childhood broke. Years passed, but the absence of Oluchi never truly left the house. Her wrapper still hung behind the door. Her cooking pots still sat in their place. Her memory lived in every corner. Many people advised Obinna to remarry. "You are still a young man," they would say. "Amarachi needs a mother." But Obinna always shook his head. His answer never changed. "No one can replace Oluchi. My daughter is enough for me." And so, Obinna became both father and mother. Every morning before the sun rose, he would enter the kitchen, tying Oluchi's old wrapper around his waist. He would cook food, sometimes too salty, sometimes half burnt, but Amarachi always ate it with a smile. "It is sweet, Papa," she would say, even when it wasn't. He washed her clothes. He walked her to school. He told her stories at night, even when he was tired. But the hardest task of all was her hair. One morning, Amarachi sat on a small wooden stool between his legs. Obinna held a comb like it was a dangerous weapon. He swallowed nervously. "Stay still," he warned. "I am trying." Amarachi winced as the comb dragged through her thick hair. "Papa, you are fighting my head," she complained. Sorry. Obina said quickly. His fingers fumbled as he tried to part the hair the way he remembered Aluchi used to do. After a long struggle, he finished. He wiped sweat from his forehead proudly. Done, he said with satisfaction. Amarachi stood up and walked to the mirror. She looked at her reflection. She froze. One side of her hair was higher than the other. The lines were crooked. It looked like a confused bird built a nest on her head. She slowly turned and looked at him. Papa, she said seriously. Obina smiled proudly. Yes. It is beautiful, right? Amarachi folded her arms. Do you want people to think rats fought inside my hair? For a second, Obina stared at her. Then he burst into laughter. Deep, loud laughter that filled the room. Amarachi tried to stay angry, but soon she started laughing too. Come here, he said, pulling her close. She leaned into his chest. He kissed her head gently. In that small house there was no mother. There was no complete family. But there was love. Pure love. And somehow they were happy. Somehow they were enough. As the years went by, the villagers began to talk. At first it was gentle advice. Then it became persistent. One evening, as Obina sat under the shade of the tree in front of his house, an elderly man sat beside him and sighed. Obina, he said calmly, you are trying. Everyone can see it. But a child needs a mother. Obina said nothing. He kept looking ahead. Another woman added one day, who will teach her the ways of a woman? Who will stand for her when she grows? Obina forced a small smile, but inside, their words began to plant seeds of fear. That night, he lay on his mat, staring into the darkness. Amarachi was asleep beside him, her small chest rising and falling peacefully. He watched her for a long time. His heart tightened. What if something happened to him? What if he died suddenly? Who would protect her? Who would love her? Who would make sure her spirit was never broken, just as he had promised Aluchi? That question refused to let him sleep. Days later, Obina met Ada. She was beautiful, with calm eyes and a gentle voice that sounded like it had never known anger. She greeted him respectfully. Good afternoon, she said softly. Obina felt a strange comfort around her. She spoke kindly. She smiled often. She listened when he spoke. She seemed good. He later discovered she had a daughter named Chiamaka, a girl the same age as Amarachi. Obina's heart lifted immediately. So Amarachi will not be alone, he thought. But what Obina did not see was the truth. Chiamaka was rude. She insulted other children. She refused to greet elders. She was lazy and spoilt. While other children helped their mothers, Chiamaka only complained and ordered people around. Ada saw it. Ada knew it. But Ada never corrected her. Obina, blinded by hope and his desire to give Amarachi a complete family, did not notice. He saw only what he wanted to see. One evening he called Amarachi. She ran to him happily. Yes, Papa? She asked, smiling. Obina hesitated for a moment. Then he spoke gently. Amarachi, how would you feel if I brought you a mother? Amarachi's eyes widened. She froze. A mother? She repeated slowly. Obina nodded. Yes, and you will also have a sister. Her name is Chiamaka. She is your age. Amarachi's mouth opened in shock. Papa, truly? She asked. Obina smiled. Yes. Suddenly Amarachi screamed with joy. She jumped into his arms. Papa, I will have a mother again? Tears of happiness filled her eyes. And a sister? She asked excitedly. Obina laughed softly. Yes. Amarachi ran around the compound, dancing. Thank you, God, she shouted. Thank you. She ran back and hugged Abina tightly. In that moment, her heart was full. She did not know that sometimes the prayers we celebrate are the ones that test us the most. The wedding was simple. No loud celebration, no crowd. Just a few villagers, quiet prayers, and hopeful hearts. Obina stood beside Ada and tied the knot with the belief that he was doing the right thing for his daughter. Amarachi stood nearby, smiling with innocent excitement. She watched Ada closely, studying the face of the woman she was ready to call mother. Ada smiled back at her. It was a warm smile, a convincing smile, the kind of smile that made promises without speaking. But behind that smile, darkness waited patiently. Immediately after the marriage, everything changed. The gentle voice Ada used before disappeared. Her words became sharp. Her tone became harsh. Her eyes became cold. The kindness she once pretended to have vanished like morning mist. The very first morning, while the sun was still hiding, Amarachi slept peacefully on her mat. Suddenly, splash. Cold water landed on her body. Amarachi jumped up in shock, shivering. She gasped and looked up. Ada stood over her, holding an empty bowl. Her face showed no mercy. Lazy goat, Ada snapped. Is this how you sleep when there is work to do? Amarachi's teeth trembled. Mama, good morning, she said weakly. Ada hissed. Do not greet me. Go and sweep the compound now. Amarachi stood up quickly, her body still cold. As she stepped outside, she passed Chiamaka's room. Chiamaka was still sleeping peacefully, her mouth open, snoring loudly. She turned on her mat and covered herself properly, completely unaware of the suffering beginning outside. The contrast was both painful and almost laughable. From that day, Amarachi became the shadow of the house. She swept the compound until dust entered her nose and made her cough. She washed piles of clothes until her fingers wrinkled and burned. She fetched heavy buckets of water that bent her small back. She cooked food she barely ate. She cleaned rooms she did not rest in. Morning to night. No rest. No praise. No love. Meanwhile, Chiamaka did nothing. She woke up whenever she wanted. She stretched lazily. Amarachi, she would shout from inside. Bring my food. Amarachi would run quickly and bring it. Chiamaka would eat carelessly, dropping food on the floor. She would look at Amarachi and smirk. You are too slow, she would say. After eating, she would sleep again, or sit outside doing nothing, or simply look for ways to insult Amarachi. You are just a servant, Chiamaka mocked one afternoon. Amarachi said nothing. She simply lowered her head and continued working. Her silence became her only protection. And Ada watched it all, with satisfaction. One afternoon, the sun was high and unforgiving. Amarachi was in the backyard, washing clothes with tired hands, when suddenly she heard the sharp sound of something breaking inside the house. Push! Her heart jumped. She froze. Before she could even move, Ada's voice exploded from inside. Amarachi, come here now. Fear gripped her chest. She dropped the cloth she was holding and ran inside immediately. The moment she entered, she saw the broken plate scattered across the floor. Chiamaka stood there, her face already pretending to be innocent. Before Amarachi could speak, Ada's hand flew across her face. Pa! The slap was loud, violent, brutal. Amarachi's body lost balance and she fell hard on the floor. Pain exploded in her mouth. She tasted blood. Her lip had split open. Tears rushed to her eyes. She looked up, confused, shaking. Mama, I did not break it, she cried weakly. Ada's eyes burned with anger. So you are now a liar? She shouted. Another slap landed instantly. Pa, you are a useless liar. Ada screamed. Amarachi's ears rang. Her head spun. She did not even look at Chiamaka. She already understood. Chiamaka stood behind Ada, watching silently, a faint smile hiding at the corner of her lips. Amarachi's heart broke more from betrayal than from pain. She said nothing again. She simply cried. And somewhere beyond the walls of that house, justice waited patiently. That evening, Obinna returned home from work. He was tired, but his face softened the moment he saw Amarachi sitting quietly in a corner. But then he noticed it. Her face was swollen. Her lip was injured. His heart skipped. Fear replaced his smile immediately. He rushed to her. "Amarachi," he called. "What happened to your face?" Amarachi quickly lowered her eyes. Her fingers tightened. "Nothing, Papa," she whispered. Obinna held her chin gently and lifted her face. His voice became firm. "Who did this?" Amarachi hesitated. She could feel Ada's eyes watching her from behind. Her voice came out small. "I fell," she said. Obinna stared at her. He knew his daughter. He knew her silence. He knew her lies were not lies, but protection. His heart grew heavy. He stood up slowly and turned to Ada. "Ada," he said calmly, but his voice carried warning. "What happened to my daughter?" Ada's face changed instantly. Her eyes filled with tears as if someone had poured water into them. "Obinna," she said, her voice trembling. "Are you asking me this question?" She placed her hand on her chest dramatically. "Do you think I will hurt her?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Fake, careful, perfect. I have been trying my best to care for her like my own," she continued, crying louder. "But she is careless. She fell by herself. Now you are blaming me?" Obinna's confidence shook. He looked at Amarachi. Amarachi said nothing. She only stared at the floor. Ada wiped her fake tears. "Maybe it is because I am not her real mother," she added painfully. "Maybe no matter what I do, I will always be the bad person." Obinna's shoulders dropped. Confusion entered his heart. He did not know what to believe. He did not know who to believe. But deep inside him, something did not feel right. And Amarachi stood there silently, drowning in a pain she could not explain. That afternoon at the market, Ada stood beside other women, pretending to be interested in the vegetables laid before her. But her ears were fixed on their conversation. One of the women leaned closer and spoke in a low, fearful voice. "Have you heard about that rich woman?" she asked. Another woman nodded quickly. "The wicked one?" "Yes, they said she is looking for a young girl to work as her servant." A third woman hissed. "She promised to pay well. Very well. But nobody wants to send their child. Who will send their own blood to that woman?" The first woman added, "They say she is heartless. She has no pity, no mercy." They all shook their heads in agreement. "Money is not everything," one of them concluded. Ada remained silent, but slowly, a smile crept onto her lips. Not a smile of joy, not a smile of kindness. It was a dark smile, a dangerous smile, the kind of smile that carried evil intentions. Her eyes hardened. An idea had been born. Later that evening, Ada called out sharply, "Amarachi!" Amarachi hurried and stood before her, her hands still wet from washing plates. "Yes, Mama," she said quietly. Ada held out a tiny, worn bag and shoved it into her hands. "Take this." Amarachi blinked in confusion. "Mama, what is it?" Ada's voice was cold. "You are leaving. There is a house where you will go and work. They need a servant." Amarachi froze. Her heart stopped. "Leaving?" she whispered. Her lips trembled. Tears filled her eyes immediately. "Mama, please." She began, her voice breaking. Mama, please, don't send me away. Her hands shook as she held the tiny bag. I will do anything. I will work harder. I will not make mistakes again. Please, Mama. But Ada's face showed nothing. No emotion. No pity. I am tired of you, Ada said harshly. You are nothing but a burden. Amarachi fell to her knees, crying openly now. Mama, please, she begged. I don't know anywhere else. Please. Ada suddenly pushed her violently. Get out. Amarachi stumbled forward, barely catching herself. Her ears rang. Her heart shattered completely. No goodbye. No love. No mercy. Behind her, Chiamaka watched with cruel satisfaction. Amarachi stood there for a moment, hoping, praying that Ada would call her back. But Ada had already turned away. The door of her only home had closed on her forever. Slowly, Amarachi lifted the tiny bag onto her head. Her legs felt weak. Her chest felt empty. She stepped out of the compound, into the unknown. She walked alone. Tears blurred her vision. Her stomach was empty. Her body was tired. But her heart was completely broken. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand and looked up at the sky. Her voice came out in a whisper filled with pain. Mama, if you can see me, she cried. Please help me. Her voice disappeared into the empty road. And Amarachi kept walking. Alone. Amarachi had been walking for a long time. Her feet were sore. Her throat was dry. Her eyes were swollen from crying. The narrow path stretched endlessly before her, surrounded by quiet bushes that seemed to whisper her pain back to her. Her small bag rested weakly on her head, and her heart carried a weight far heavier than the bag itself. Suddenly, she noticed a small hut by the side of the path. The hut looked old, tired, almost forgotten by the world. In front of it sat an old woman. Her body was bent. Her hands trembled with weakness. Her hair was white like dry cotton. She looked fragile, like someone time had forgotten to carry along. The old woman lifted her weak eyes and saw Amarachi. My daughter, she called in a frail voice. Amarachi stopped immediately. Respect rose naturally inside her. She dropped her bag gently and walked closer. Yes, Mama, Amarachi answered softly. The old woman swallowed painfully. Please, help me, she begged. My body is too weak. I have not been able to sweep my compound. I have not fetched water. I am hungry. Amarachi did not hesitate. Not even for a second. She nodded. Do not worry, Mama, she said gently. I will help you. The old woman watched her carefully. Amarachi picked up the broom and began to sweep. Dust rose into the air, but she did not complain. She fetched water, carrying the heavy bucket with her small strength. She entered the tiny hut and cooked what little food she found. She moved with care, with love, with kindness. When she finished, she returned to the old woman and helped her sit comfortably. The old woman's eyes were shining now, not with weakness, but with something deeper, something knowing, something ancient. She reached out her trembling hand and placed it on Amarachi's head. My child, she said slowly, your kindness will speak for you. Amarachi lowered her head respectfully. Thank you, Mama, she whispered. She carried her bag again and continued her journey. But something in the air had changed. Something unseen had noticed her. Not long after, she saw an old man ahead of her. His name was Namdi. He struggled under the weight of a heavy bundle of firewood tied to his back. His steps were slow, painful. He groaned quietly with each movement. Amarachi hurried toward him. Papa, she called gently. Please let me help you. The old man stopped and turned. He studied her face. My daughter, this load is heavy, he warned. Amarachi gave a small, tired smile. Let me try, she said. Without waiting, she carefully lifted part of the bundle, helping him carry it. Together, they walked slowly until they reached his destination. The old man dropped the firewood and exhaled deeply. He looked at Amarachi with eyes that held more than gratitude. They held recognition. He placed his hand gently on her head. You have a good heart, he said. May blessings follow you wherever you go. Amarachi bowed her head. Thank you, Papa, she replied softly. She turned and continued her journey again. But behind her, the old man watched her leave, with a quiet smile that carried secrets, and somewhere beyond what the eyes could see, the world itself was preparing to answer her kindness. Amarachi walked slowly, her strength almost gone, her heart still heavy from rejection, her eyes tired from too many tears. The narrow path stretched endlessly ahead, but suddenly, she stopped. Two figures stood before her. Her breath caught in her throat. It was them, the old woman, and the old man she had helped. But they were no longer the same. They stood upright now, strong, radiant. Their bodies glowed with a soft, powerful light. Their faces shone with peace and authority. Amarachi's bag slipped from her head and fell to the ground. Fear and wonder filled her eyes. She trembled. Mama, Papa, she whispered, confused. Nika smiled gently, her voice no longer weak. Do not be afraid, my child. Namdi stepped forward, his presence calm but mighty. We have seen your heart, he said. Amarachi could not speak. Her lips shook. Her eyes filled with tears again. Nika stretched out her hand, and suddenly a beautiful bag appeared. She placed it in Amarachi's trembling hands. Take this, Nika said. Go back home. Amarachi looked at the bag, then at them. For me? She asked weakly. Namdi nodded.
My child, take this as a reward for your kindness and don't stop being kind.
Thank you, I will.
Yes, your kindness has spoken. Tears rolled down Amarachi's face. She fell to her knees. Thank you, she cried. When she looked up again, they were gone, disappeared, like they were never there. Amarachi held the bag tightly. Her hands trembled as she slowly opened it. And then she froze. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened. Inside the bag was money. Plenty of money. Shining coins. Beautiful clothes. Food. Riches beyond anything she had ever seen. Blessings overflowed inside it. Amarachi screamed. A scream of shock. A scream of joy. Tears poured down her face as she laughed and cried at the same time. Mama, she cried out loud. Papa. She grabbed the bag and ran. She ran faster than she had ever run in her life. Her feet barely felt the ground. Her heart pounded with hope, with joy, with victory. She ran until she reached home. Obina was outside, sitting quietly. His face had grown older from worry. His eyes had grown weaker from too much crying. He looked up absent-mindedly and froze. Amarachi stood there, alive, breathing. His daughter. The bag fell from her hand. Papa, she whispered. Obina's body shook. His legs failed him. He fell to his knees. Tears exploded from his eyes. My daughter, he cried. His voice broke into pieces. Amarachi ran into his arms. He held her tightly, desperately, like he was afraid she would disappear again. He cried into her shoulder. I thought I lost you. I thought I lost you. Amarachi cried too. I am here, Papa. I am here. They held each other for a long time. Neither wanted to let go. The pain. The fear. The love. The miracle. Everything lived inside that embrace. That night, Ada could not sleep. She lay on her mat, her eyes wide open, staring into the darkness. The image of Amarachi's bag refused to leave her mind. The money, the riches, the joy, the respect Amarachi now received. It burned her heart like hot fire. She turned to one side, then the other. Sleep ran away from her. Jealousy held her hostage. How? She whispered to herself. How did that useless girl become rich? Her hands tightened into fists. It should have been my daughter, she muttered bitterly. Suddenly she sat up. An idea entered her mind. A dangerous idea. She turned to where Chiamaka slept peacefully, her mouth open, snoring without a care in the world. Ada shook her roughly. Chiamaka, wake up! Mama, what is it? She complained lazily. Ada leaned closer. You are going somewhere tomorrow, she said. Chiamaka frowned. Where? Ada's eyes hardened. The same place Amarachi went. The next morning, Chiamaka walked along the same narrow path, carrying her own bag. But unlike Amarachi, there were no tears. Only pride, only arrogance. She walked like the road belonged to her. Soon, she saw the small hut. Nika sat outside, looking weak and fragile, just as before. My daughter, Nika called gently. Please help me sweep my compound. Chiamaka stopped. She looked at the old woman from head to toe. Then she laughed mockingly. Sweep? She scoffed. Do I look like your servant? Nika remained calm. Please, my child, she begged softly. Chiamaka hissed loudly. Old woman, do it yourself, she snapped. I did not come here to do dirty work. She tossed her hair and walked away proudly. Not long after, she saw Namdi struggling under his heavy bundle of firewood. He groaned with each step. My daughter, he called weakly. Please help me. Chiamaka rolled her eyes dramatically. What is wrong with all of you old people? She snapped. Am I your mate? Namdi stumbled slightly. Instead of helping him, Chiamaka pushed him. Shift, she barked. Namdi fell to the ground with a painful groan. Chiamaka laughed loudly. Useless old man, she mocked. She clapped her hands, dusting them proudly. You people are blocking my way. She walked past him without looking back. Her wickedness filled the air. Her foolishness blinded her, and somewhere beyond her understanding, her reward was already waiting. Chiamaka walked forward with pride still swelling inside her chest. Then suddenly she saw them. Nika and Namdi stood before her again. But this time, they were no longer weak. They stood tall, calm, powerful. Their presence made the air feel heavy. Chiamaka stopped. Her eyes widened, but her pride did not allow her to bow. Nika stretched out her hand and gave her a bag. Take this, she said calmly. Namdi added, his voice deep and firm. Go home. Give it to your mother. Both of you must lock yourselves inside before opening it. Chiamaka's eyes shone with excitement. She grabbed the bag quickly. Thank you, she said impatiently, already imagining riches. She ran home as fast as her legs could carry her. Mama, Mama, she screamed as she entered. Ada rushed out immediately. You got it? She asked breathlessly. Chiamaka lifted the bag proudly. Yes. Ada's hands trembled with greedy excitement. Quick, she said. Let us go inside. They both entered the house. Ada shut the door tightly. She bolted it, locked it, closed the windows. Her heart pounded loudly. Open it, she whispered. Chiamaka nodded eagerly. She opened the bag, and suddenly, aura exploded. Black insects poured out, crawling, flying, jumping, biting, stinging, covering their bodies. Chiamaka screamed. Mama! Ada screamed too. What is this? The insects crawled into their clothes, bit their skin, stung their faces. Their bodies burned with pain. They ran around the room in madness. Open the door, Chiamaka cried. Mama, help me. Ada scratched her skin desperately. They are killing me, she screamed. They cried. They begged. They shouted. But nobody came. The door they locked kept them trapped with their punishment. Justice had finally arrived. When the door finally opened hours later, Ada and Chiamaka crawled out slowly. Their bodies were swollen, their faces disfigured, their beauty destroyed, their pride broken. Shame covered them completely. Ada could not look at anyone without a word, without goodbye, without pride. She carried her daughter and left the compound forever. They disappeared from the village like they never existed. Peace returned. Inside the compound, Obina and Amarachi stood together. Their home was now filled with joy, with wealth, with laughter. Obina looked at his daughter with pride. You suffered, but you did not change your heart, he said gently. Amarachi smiled softly. Mama said kindness never dies, she replied. And she lived by those words. She remained humble. She remained kind. She helped others. She never forgot the road she walked. She never forgot the power of kindness. And for the first time in a long time, their lives were full. Their lives were peaceful. Their lives were happy.